All right, my friends, here's a situation that we all know too well. The day was going exactly the way you hoped it would. Traffic wasn't bad, weather wasn't crazy, and your delivery was pretty much running on time. Then, as luck would have it, you got held up at the shipper or at the receiver for nearly 4 hours. You finally get unloaded, glance at your clock, and see you got 33 minutes left. No problem, you think. You'll grab a parking spot at the rest area a few miles down the road. You pull in that rest area, full. You drive a few miles further down the road to a truck stop, full. Now you're getting nervous. You're looking for any place you can park legally and safely. If you've driven a truck long enough, you've had this happen to you. And it isn't always because you didn't plan your day out right, which raises a very important question here. Where are drivers having the most trouble finding public parking spots right now? New data from Trucker Path gives us that answer. And when reviewing that data, one thing immediately jumped out at me. All 5 states that are listed as the worst are located in the eastern half of the United States. So, what does this data actually mean? Well, if you're new to this channel, I'm Jim Campbell. I spent 33 years in trucking. I've driven the roads, I've dispatched the drivers, I've brokered the freight. Needless to say, I've been there and done that at every level in trucking. Getting back to Trucker Path, they analyze all the parking spot reports submitted through their app by real truck drivers between the months of September 2025 and June 2026. The truck parking data was compiled by more than 1 million truck drivers that use Trucker Path for information about truck stops, rest areas, parking availability, fuel prices, and weigh station status. This data reflects real information from real truck drivers. So, how was this data arrived at? Well, Trucker Path separate the results into 2 categories. Public parking, which generally meant rest areas, welcome centers, and other state or government-operated locations. Private parking includes truck stops and other privately operated or owned facilities. Some private parking is free, some of it is reserved or paid. This video focuses on the 5 states where drivers reported the least available public truck parking. Trucker Path identified the bottom 5 states as a group and simply listed them as the 5 worst states in the country when it comes to overall truck parking. These are the 5 states, in no official order, where truck drivers are most likely to have issues finding a safe place to park. Let's begin with Tennessee. Tennessee may not look intimidating on a map, but when it comes to running freight, this state is like a damn tornado funnel. You have I-40 running east and west, I-65 running north and south, then you have routes I-24, I-75, and I-81. These are major highways that bleed into Tennessee from every direction. Memphis is a major air cargo shipper. They also have rail freight, warehousing, and distribution centers all over. Nashville continues to grow as a distribution market. Chattanooga sits at the intersection of routes I-24, I-59, and I-75. And then there's Knoxville that catches all the traffic moving between routes I-40 and I-75. That means you better have a good game plan in place if you intend to load or unload, or you're just running through Tennessee. And therein lies the trap. A driver not familiar with Tennessee sees multiple truck stops all along I-40, for example, and assumes that one of them will have room for him or her once they're ready to bed down. As the great Lee Corso used to say, not so fast, my friend. Here's a word of the wise. If you're crossing through Tennessee and it's after lunch, you better start thinking about where you'll be braking at. Don't wait until you reach Nashville or Knoxville with 40 minutes left on your clock. And if detention looks like it's going to be an issue and destroy your original game plan, you better start thinking about a backup plan. Second state on the worst list is Maryland. Maryland's parking problem comes down to geography. It's a relatively small state, but has a shit ton of freight running through it. You have Route 95 connecting the Northeast with Washington, D.C. and the Southeast. You have Route 70 feeding freight toward Baltimore. Route 81 runs north and south through western Maryland. And Route 68 carries trucks through the mountains where parking choices are far and few in between. Then with all that happening, add the Port of Baltimore, which is one of America's busiest ports for cars and roll-on and roll-off cargo. All these trucks are competing for the very same parking spots with freight passing between Pennsylvania, Delaware, Virginia, Washington, D.C., and the rest of the Northeast. Maryland also has some of the heaviest developed business and residential areas surrounding its busiest corridors. Here's Jim's tip. If your day is going to end near Baltimore or Washington, D.C., it would be a good idea to call ahead and confirm whether the shipper or receiver allows overnight parking or staging. You don't want to assume that you can get there early and they might take you early, or think you're going to get there early and be able to sit outside the gate and wait for them to let you in. And don't enter the Baltimore, Washington, D.C. area running tight on your clock without knowing exactly where you're going to park before that clock goes ding ding. Okay, number 3 on our worst list is Connecticut. Connecticut is the 3rd smallest state in America when measured by land area, but it sits directly in the path of freight moving throughout the entire New England area. And that's a bad combination. You have Route 95 carrying traffic all along the coast. I-84 brings trucks in from New York and Pennsylvania. Then you got Route 91 connecting Connecticut with Massachusetts and Vermont. Now squeeze all of that into a state with dense development, expensive land, and congestion, and very limited parking facilities. Connecticut also appeared on Trucker Pass bottom 5 worst list for private parking availability as well. And that matters. It means drivers aren't only struggling to find parking spots at public rest areas, they're also reporting very limited parking availability at truck stops and other private facilities. Here's my tip. If you're headed into Connecticut late in the day, consider shutting down before you even enter the state. It might cost you a few miles on the front end after you brake, but it could save you an hour or more of searching, wasted fuel, and a possible logbook violation should you get stuck out. Sometimes the best parking spot in Connecticut is the one you lock down before you reach Connecticut. Next on our list is Massachusetts. Massachusetts presents the same basic problem as Connecticut. Freight entering the state is concentrated along a small number of major corridors. You have Route 90, the Massachusetts Turnpike, Route 84 approaching from Connecticut, Route 91 running north and south, and then there's 495 carrying traffic all the way around the Boston area. Once you travel east toward Worcester and Boston, available land becomes more expensive and truck-friendly options become much harder to find. Massachusetts appeared on Trucker Pass bottom 5 list for both public and private parking. That is an important distinction. A shortage of public truck parking is frustrating. And when you combine that with a limited number of truck stops and other private parking facilities, it creates a huge problem. Here's my take. If you plan on loading or unloading around the Boston area early in the morning, I seriously advise that you have your parking plan in place before crossing into the eastern half of Massachusetts. It's always a good idea to call the receiver or shipper ahead and ask specifically about overnight parking. And remember to get the name of that person who approved you coming in early or parking or being able to stage there, just in case you run into issues when you get there. Whatever you do, if someone tells you, well, drivers sometimes park here, that's not permission. The next state on our list is New Jersey. New Jersey may be the least surprising state on this list. It is one of the most densely populated and heavily developed states in America. It also carries some of the heaviest freight demand in the Northeast. You got the New Jersey Turnpike, Route 78, 80, 287, and 295. Surround those highways with container terminals, rail yards, distribution centers, warehouses, and one of America's largest consumer markets. Then ask thousands of drivers to find parking on that same limited amount of land. See how that works out. New Jersey joined Connecticut and Massachusetts on both Trucker Pass bottom 5 worst list for their lack of both public and private parking availability. And keep in mind that drivers hauling that freight aren't just delivering to New Jersey. Many of them are passing through on their way to upstate New York or maybe to one of the 5 boroughs out on the island, or to Pennsylvania, Connecticut, or the rest of New England. When clocks are ticking down and time is getting short, drivers still need to find somewhere to hunker down. My tip on this one: Never ever enter North Jersey with limited time on your clock, assuming that you're going to figure it out after you make the delivery. Know whether that shipper or receiver allows staging or truck parking. Have a confirmed primary location to park in advance if possible, and also have a backup plan in place should things get off track. Okay, to recap, the 5 states identified by Trucker Path as being the absolute worst for available truck parking are the following: Tennessee, Maryland, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Jersey. 3 of them, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Jersey, also appeared amongst the 5 worst states for truck stop and private parking availability. In the big picture, truck drivers can have a plan in place. They can use parking apps to help them limit their search. They can call ahead to shippers and receivers and ask about on-site parking or staging. They can even reserve a parking spot at a truck stop when one is available. But let's not insult the intelligence of truck drivers by pretending better planning will solve a national truck parking shortage. You can plan everything out perfectly and still lose hours at a shipper or receiver, effectively flushing that game plan you had right down the toilet. And let's be real here. There are a number of different things that can jump up and bite you in the ass and kill your original game plan. A crash ahead of you can close the interstate. Weather can raise its ugly head and have a say and make itself known. Then there's the issue of detention at the shipper or receiver. Planning will definitely improve your chances, but it can't create a parking spot that simply isn't there. The American Trucking Research Institute, or for short, the ATRI, has found that drivers on average lose nearly an hour a day, every day, driving around trying to find parking. The actual number is approximately 56 minutes of productive driving time every day wasted looking for a parking spot. But the cost goes beyond lost miles and cost of fuel. When legal parking is nowhere to be had, drivers are forced to park on the shoulders, entrance ramps, abandoned properties, and other locations where they risk getting a ticket, being towed, or sometimes much worse. I previously told you in another video about Randy, a driver who was killed while parked on the shoulder because he had nowhere safe and legal to park. Randy's story is really one of the many tragedies that have happened to other truck drivers. But the conditions that force drivers to park on shoulders and ramps exist all across America every day and every night. That makes truck parking more than a convenience. It's a safety issue. It's an hours of service issue. And it's a basic infrastructure issue. America wants freight. America needs freight. It's high time America starts looking out for the safety of truck drivers, and they want to keep the freight moving. Before you go, if you've ever watched that clock burn down to nothing looking for a parking spot, I put together a free hours of service reference guide. You need to grab it. The link's in the pinned comment below. Now, I want to hear from you drivers out there. Have you struggled to find parking in Tennessee or Maryland or Connecticut, Massachusetts, or New Jersey? Which state has caused you the biggest parking headache? And what state do you believe should have made this list? Drop your experience in the comments below. Those real-world driver reports are what turns statistics into a story the public cannot ignore. My name is Jim Campbell. Thank you for watching. Stay safe out there, and remember to keep the shiny side up and the greasy side down. I'll see you in the next video.